the amendments will seek to treat with minor offenses or sectors which do not contribute much to the general output of the Jamaican economy. The fisheries sector contributed $30 billion to GDP last year. And if my memory serves me correctly, in 2022, the fisheries sector grew by approximately 16% when compared to the former year. The offenses involving prohibited fishing methods, 92 addresses the offense of stealing from traps, and 94 alludes to the offense of fishing in a fish sanctuary habitat, a development which I'm sure our just departed former Senator Samuda has taken a keen interest in, because it speaks to the protection of the environment. I believe fine-tuning the Mocha Act to allow the agency to clamp down on these crimes which affect important sectors in our country is a good development. Indeed, draft legislation such as the one before us here today, which seeks to enhance the good functioning of key sectors, can only augur well for our country by way of protecting the interests of legitimate participants in the industry from activities which are minded to offend Jamaican law. I hear Senator Brown suggesting that there's an attempt by the administration or members on this side to use the court of law to strike down the illicit enrichment law. That, sir, is absolutely false. As a lawmaker, I'd expect the Senate to appreciate that if a litigant intends to strike down a law, the Attorney General would be named as a defendant in whatever action is carried. So this notion that there's an attempt by members of this side to strike down the illicit enrichment law, and there may be some intention to carry legislation to the Parliament to achieve that, is absolutely false. It is not true. Indeed, the Senator misled the Parliament in that regard. I will agree with Senator Brown that Mocha, as part of its core mandate, when it was passed in 2018, it was mandated to target major organized criminal networks. Indeed, it has been so doing. So the fact that there are additional offenses that Mocha has within its disposal to pursue criminal activity does not detract from the point that the organization is at liberty to pursue even more major investigations of organized criminal networks. I agree with Senator Brown that corruption is a matter that has often reared its ugly head in Jamaican politics. And I can say that the record of the administration of Prime Minister Andrew Holness is strong in passing legislation to advance the anti-corruption fight, including making Mocha an autonomous agency in 2018. We passed the Integrity Commission Act. And any matter where corruption has arisen, the Prime Minister has taken swift and appropriate action. This compares with former years of the PNP administration, where you would have scandal after scandal after scandal. Some ministers then donning the moniker of Teflon Don, and not one sanction was meted out to by the then leadership of the PNP administration. So I believe it's a semblance of hypocrisy for the senator to seek to suggest that there's no accountability whereas the corruption fight is concerned and actions taken by this administration. Our record in fighting corruption is strong. I say that without apology. Earlier, I had intimated that I can concur with Senator Brown that there are instances where the matter of corruption has arisen in the political arena. I recall a headline as well in August 2016, 5 fingered as PNP money scandal worsens. I recall that headline. And the article says, accusing fingers are being pointed at senior members of the PNP who are believed to have collected campaign donations and not turned them over to the party in the lead up to the next general election, to the last election. The article, published incidentally by the Gleaner, said, a document from the then PNP Treasurer Norman Horn was supplied to the PNP's NEC meeting in July, claimed that the action of some members with campaign donations was a major problem for the PNP. Yes, the Gleaner published this article. And the article went on to quote the then erstwhile PNP treasurer as saying, these persons were actively in the market for what seemed to be the sole benefit of their personal campaigns, and they collected significant amounts from members of the private sector, which were earmarked for the Treasury as potential substantial donors for the benefit of the PNP as one cohesive unit. Okay. But they kept the donations for themselves. Yes? The article went on, Senator Brown, to say, according to party insiders, in one instance, a foreign entity contributed US 20 million to the PNP. US 20 million. But this was collected by a high-ranking PNP official and not turned over to the party treasury. Senator Brown speaks of major alleged criminality in the politics, and he called for Mocha to pursue certain investigations. I believe this matter would be ripe for an investigation by the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency. I strongly believe so, sir. As a matter of fact, another article germane to this matter indicated that the Office of the Contractor General had launched a probe into what was then described as the PNP campaign fund scandal. Yes? The Office of the Contractor General has launched an that's gripping the opposition PNP. That's what another publication dated September 2016 indicated. Yes, when you hear the senator speak, you would believe these things did not transpire. And note that the Office of the Contractor General was subsumed into among the agencies subsumed into the Integrity Commission. It would be good for the Commission, upon the conclusion of the investigation into the PNP campaign funds scandal, to follow due process and cause the findings to be tabled in the Parliament. I look forward to hearing the outcomes of that investigation, if in fact it was pursued by the Integrity Commission after the law was passed, which subsumed the Office of the Contractor General into that single anti-corruption agency. So the fact of the matter is, I am hopeful that the amendments which we pursue today will allow Mocha to further and better pursue its mandate, which is to identify and target major organized criminal networks. I want to commend the organization as well for making some headway. Our Senate leader mentioned the investigation into the Manchester Parish Council scandal, where approximately $40 million was pilfered from the coffers of the entity. The Manchester Parish Council, which is controlled by the opposition PNP. But I know Senator Brown didn't include that. I think it would have been good order to commend Mocha for a successful investigation into that matter that led to conviction sentences being handed down. Not, yeah, absolutely. $400 million of taxpayers' money was pilfered from the Manchester Municipal Corporation, controlled by the opposition PNP then. Yes, and a conviction and sentences, convictions and sentences were achieved by the Jamaican state. Mocha participated heavily in that investigation. I want to strongly commend Mocha for that and encourage more of the same, and I'm sure you join me in so doing, Senator Brown. I believe by way of passage in 2018 of the Mocha Act, which made Mocha independent of the JCF, that was a step in the right direction and not inconsistent with what transpires in jurisdictions not concerned with Jamaica, where various law enforcement agencies have their own mandate in tackling corruption. Before I resume my seat, I wish to just make a quick point. I know that Section 46 of the Act states inter alia that the Act should be reviewed from time to time by a committee of Parliament. I don't believe such a review has taken place as yet. I therefore support the notion that after 6 years from its passage, the time might be opposite to take another look at the Mocha Act and to make amendments where necessary to make the agency more effective. I'd suggest that. And I know that there are Jamaicans who might be impatient with the outcomes being generated by law enforcement agencies, including Mocha. However, I'd say though that sentiment is understandable, it's a fact that often investigations take time. But what I do is encourage the agency to continue pursuing the anti-corruption fight with vigor. And I'm confident that even after the passage of 6 years, that with a fluctuation of time, Senator Brown, Mocha will continue to bring outcomes that we desire. Effective targeting of major players in corruption, preparing airtight cases, carrying those individuals before the court, and ensuring that justice is done. In closing, I reiterate my support for the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency amendment of the first schedule order 2024. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator Fitz Henley. Minister.
Thank you.
Sir, just before you start, because I suspect you're going to go. So if you can just do the 120, and then you can just go through without an interruption.
I'm guided, Mr. President. Mr. President, might the Senate be permitted to sit beyond 2 o'clock to complete the business of the day?
The question has
beyond
been...
1:30, sorry. 1:30.
The question is before the Senate. Those in favor?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, the first point I believe he made was that the addition of these offenses are diluting the powers of the Mocha. And I want to roundly and soundly reject that suggestion. What is being done here is the exact opposite. It is literally the exact opposite. It is strengthening the ability of Mocha to catch the big fish. If it is that the senator understood law enforcement and understood investigations, despite the chest with which he spoke, to use a young people's phraseology, he would understand that in these complex organized crime matters, it is usually the earliest, the smallest offense, the easiest proved offense, which allows you the time to complete the investigation on the wider networking and the deeper connections to the big fish. What is critical, therefore, is that we ensure not that we say what we think should be in the bill, but that we listen to Mocha, which has said to the policymakers, these are the things, these are the gaps in our enforcement ability, these are the gaps in our investigation capacity that prevent us from sometimes completing a circle that is within our reach, but we're just not quite able to get there. These offenses most repeatedly occur within the context of our remit, and we need them, therefore, to be included in the Act so that we can ensure that we are being as effective as possible. And sometimes an offense may even look small, but it is a part of the income stream of a wider networked gang. The Senator Fitz mentioned that fishing earned the government revenue $30 billion last year. And that's legal fishing. The illegal and unreported fishing that takes place, the incursions into our waters, is another billion-dollar industry that we must be able to take hold of as well. So to think that it is about a little fisherman being on the sea without his license absolutely misses the point of the work that is before us. And it also misses the point that there are many people who hold themselves out as fishermen and fisherwomen, but what is in their boat at night time has nothing that is able to swim. I want to tell you that it is a blind and naive perspective that takes a view that what is happening in transnational crime, the trafficking of guns and drugs on our waters, is something that Mocha should not be concerned with. Mocha is not concerned with the man who was prosecuted for Aki. And I was among all of the people everyone who said, why on earth was this matter brought before the court? Why was a choice made for this gentleman to be charged for Aki? I mean, it's just one of the outrageous circumstances in our system that where things like this, the court's time is taken up with offenses like that. However, the ability of Mocha to prosecute in circumstances, and they are delineated in the Act and in the section that has been put before us, that they must be deemed to be serious. They must occur in circumstances where there is a connection with organized crime or that they have an international nature. So the definition of the crime does not necessarily mean that it will be, the fact that it is called simple larceny doesn't mean that it will be a language on the normal understanding of the word simple larceny. And it may be a cog in a massive wheel of a billion-dollar crime network. So it is very important to arm them in the way they have asked to be armed, not because we have some baseless concept of what we think they should be doing. On the matter of staffing and resources, Mocha does not lack for resources. Mocha has a challenge in recruiting the quality and not only the quality of personnel which they require and which they have on staff. They have a staff of which we can all be very proud as a country. Regrettably, it is often poached by recruiters from other countries, but also they have a rigorous vetting process, and it takes them quite a while. Should they be looking back at their salary scales? Maybe that is something that should be put on the table, if that might help. But the vetting and the competition for talent in other areas which also deal with high security now is actually very high. So they're at about, as I think rightly said, about 60% of their establishment. But it is not because the government has not given them the resources that they need. It is that there is a competition for talent in that space, which is very difficult to meet. So it is, it's not a matter of the government not giving the budget that is requested or required. We have done that. And if there is a review that is needed, it will be done, and requested, it will be done as well. On the matter of the unexplained wealth order, this is a matter which has been in discussion for some time. And it is a constitutional issue. It's not a light one. And quite a bit of work has been and is being done on it. There are, and the government is of course aware of these cases that have been quoted by the learned aspiring QC, KC, or whatever it is you may be seeking. I know you don't like the KC term, but there are many legal minds that have been trying to work at this issue to balance the public interest versus the right to privacy, to ensure that it is not unduly wide, it's not disproportionately wide, and it's not arbitrarily exercised, so that it can fit within our Constitution. We do take note of the circumstances which have existed elsewhere. And even in the UK, where they don't have a written constitution, and they had to be delicate, there are very few prosecutions that have taken place under it because it is such a difficult thing to enforce. So we recognize we have a consultant that is working on the matter. Our Attorney General's chambers is seized with the matter, legal reform, etc. And the effort is to ensure that there's a mechanism that sits within the framework of our Constitution, that is proportional and not arbitrary. But it is a fact that we have been using the tools that are available to us, and there are significant successes that have been gained in this regard. Mocha has been able to through its investigations, has been able to secure forfeited assets in respect of real property valued at, what is this? More than, I'm sure I'm not counting these zeros correctly, but it would seem to me, let me just say billions of dollars. Let me say billions of US and Jamaican dollars. I mean, they forfeited bank accounts amounting to more than $282 million, $486 million, $154 billion worth of real property. Listen, if I were to go through, let's not even count the vehicles, cash and investments. These are from, there are overlapping, because within the cases you may have 30 vehicles within one case. You may have 10 bank accounts within another. Exactly. So Mocha is focused on its work. Mocha does not major in the minor. Mocha does not try to create the perceptions of something being done wrong if there is nothing being done wrong. There is nothing in this world that is illegal or unlawful about having multiple transactions. Anybody who does business or even operates, even in a personal capacity, if someone is a hardworking, growing person who is seeking to grow their wealth and who is seeking to do better for themselves and their family, is going to have bank transactions. But POCA and KYC requirements create the flags where those are, where there's something improper, and where there's nothing about them in and of themselves that is improper. And to create this impression is really does such a disservice to law enforcement and investigation and the very complex area of financial crime. It confuses issues which don't need to be confused and politicizes issues which shouldn't be. And the day we learn in this country not to politicize what shouldn't be politicized, so that we can allow young institutions to grow and do what they should be doing properly, we will be a far better off country. Because it is this government which passed the Integrity Commission Act. It is this government which provided the budget for the Integrity Commission, the consultancies to set up the establishment. It is this government that ensured that there was a strong institutional framework to fight against corruption, expecting that it would be fair, expecting that the legal framework would protect persons from any weaponization of its tools. And that is a reasonable expectation of any Jamaican citizen, whether in the public or private sector. It is this administration which gave Mocha the budget to work in the way that it does. You are there talking about Mocha should tell us this and Mocha should tell us that. You know why Mocha works so effectively? Because they don't tell you nothing. They just do their work and make sure that their investigations are airtight, their cases are well constructed, so that they can be taken before the court appropriately. You said it, I don't know how many times you said it. Mocha should tell us. You don't understand the matter of crime investigation or criminal investigation and prosecution. You don't understand it and therefore should not be speaking in the matter. You did, and you can ask Hansard. I don't need to because I took the note myself. Listen, I just want to close very quickly to say that the amendments before us have been sought by the institution which feels that these offenses will enable them to be more effective. And our job as legislators in making laws within this, in this honorable chamber is to ensure that where we are guided by expertise, we take steps to empower, as in the security field, that we take the steps that are necessary to give them the powers they need to achieve the results that we as a society need. And we want a crime-free society. We want the big fish to be caught. Sometimes the big fish need to start with a little hook. And we need to make sure that all of these are provided for by law. With that, Mr. President, I ask that the Senate approve the order that is before us.
And this year's theme